Right, welcome back to section 3 now of our Ramblers podcast, where we're going to be discussing conspiracy theories. So, do you guys believe in conspiracies?
Depends what the conspiracy theory is.
Yeah, very much so.
Mm-hmm. There's some weird ones out there that are weirdly accurate, and then some that are just total tosh, really.
It's the way they all they make you think. You're like,
it's the coincidences.
Well, actually, yeah. Yeah, which ones do you guys believe in?
There was one that I heard about on another podcast, and it was Michael Jackson, and something to do with, I think it was with 9/11, and like he was meant to be there that day, but he called in ill in the morning, and then there was something with one of his album covers that was really weird. Like it sounds like a load of old waffle, but then you see it, and some of the things he said,
it makes you question it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's probably just him calling ill and he's made a weird album cover, but it was a bit weird. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I think the JFK assassination obviously is one that most people can agree there is something dodgy there. It wasn't just Lee Harvey Oswald shot him. There was something more going on.
I'd say that's similar with the Diana one as well.
Yeah.
So the main conspiracy theories we'll talk about, because I think with our democratization of media theme, is the 5G and Huawei phones. If you actually know how to pronounce that, we'd appreciate it. So 5G, people believed that that's what caused COVID because of the radiation. How obscure is that?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Yes, it's. I think it initially started circulating in sort of January 2020.
Yeah.
It was January, February time, I think.
Yeah, and I think it was based upon a misinterpretation of an old 70s science project. A guy looked at could radio waves affect bacteria.
Yes.
And
yeah.
That's straight away you can see, well, there's
where that's going to go.
Stupidity involved because bacteria are very different from viruses.
Yeah.
So the base of what they're basing their idea on is a misinterpretation right from the beginning. So I think it's one that to me is more obviously just nonsense.
Yeah, so you don't believe it?
No, there's just nothing there.
No, it's. I don't believe it's such, but it is a bit of a coincidence sometimes. I've got here that the first city the 5G mast was installed in was Wuhan, which obviously was the initial outbreak of COVID started. And they all believe that they're keeping them in lockdown to keep their... so they can secretly install all these 5G masts around the UK, which is just absurd. And they say when you have like 5G in your phone, supposedly it emits more radiation than, I don't know, 4G or something like that. But I think that one of the most interesting facts was that Bill Gates is to blame, apparently.
Ah, bloody Gates.
Yeah, it's another kind of crazy aspect. So I think this is the idea that Bill Gates was behind the vaccination program because he wanted to implant people with microchips, and the idea that he would be able to spy on everyone, which is ridiculous because a lot of the people that spread those sort of conspiracy theories are people that are quite happy to go and do those ridiculous kind of questionnaires where you decide what kind of Harry Potter character are you, which are completely designed to data mine exactly your kind of history online. So yeah, I think it is just utterly ridiculous. And I think Bill Gates, whatever people think of him, has spent a lot of his own money investing in medical research and science. And he has said for years that there would be a pandemic coming. And he is
so
therefore...
people are blaming him because he suspected it.
He's the one that suspected it.
Right.
Put a blame to a person, essentially.
Poor bloke, he gets blamed for everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, there was actually a YouTuber who called Black the Ripper, who spoke the truth about 5G and the radiation and everything, and was found shortly dead after he did like this announcement. Rumours are that he was killed for knowing too much. What's your
I mean,
take on that?
stuff like that happens all the time.
People
there's
die.
There's a high chance it's just a coincidence, or it could be that it's just someone that's seen the video. There's a lot of weird people, like someone that's just seen the video and thought, oh, he's just chatting a load of waffle and need to sort him out, essentially. It's horrible to say, but a lot of people are like that in the world, unfortunately.
So it's safe to say that none of us believe this conspiracy theory.
No, definitely not.
Do you see why people could?
No.
No?
I think
No, not really. I mean, I always think any conspiracy theory, if it has to involve more than about between 20 and 50 people to plan and execute, then the chances of it happening without people knowing about it are so minimal that it very probably didn't happen.
Yeah, that's true.
And also you think, well, if this is such a brilliantly planned conspiracy, why does everyone know about it and everyone talking about it?
Yeah, because there's quite a few conspiracy theories that people... there's quite a few conspiracy theories that, like, quite quiet with the whole... Well, Area 51 isn't really a quiet one anymore, but it was to begin with. And not much people explore, what is it, the Bermuda Triangle? There was quite a few on that, but they all seem to have disappeared now, which is quite interesting. But that takes us nicely to the Huawei phone. Huawei phone conspiracy. So, which actually turned into, well, a fact, I suppose. So the Chinese were supposedly putting, hacking data into the phones to spy on the US government, and now the US government have banned all Huawei phones from no one in the government can use them. What do you think to that?
I think there's a bit more credibility to this one because it's well known that, for instance, the University of Beijing, since the sort of late 90s, had a very advanced hacking program, literally teaching students how to be hackers.
Oh, wow.
And they have been compiling information about other countries since then in a huge way. So I would say it's a bit more credible. And obviously, if it's technology that has been designed by the Chinese, with the Chinese government kind of as part of that, then I suppose it is a bit more suspicious.
I mean, I'd say, I'd agree with Mark on probably a bit more credibility. I'd say they've probably done it more as a precautionary thing to just ensure there's nothing there. But they wouldn't have done it if there wasn't. I
suppose it's too big of a risk to just leave it as a conspiracy.
Exactly.
If it was true, yeah.
I don't think they banned it because they definitely knew it. I think it was just let's make sure as a precautionary thing that.
I think on a wider sort of note, I just assumed that sort of people in very top secret government positions wouldn't have kind of smartphones on them anyway.
No, actually, that's a good point.
I think no matter what the smartphone is, there's a possibility that some outside agency could hack that phone, and therefore then have access to secret government locations.
It's very easily done.
But it could be that they just whenever they go somewhere that has to be secret, they have to ensure don't take
burner
it with
phones
them,
or whatever, don't they?
There's a high chance if they did, they'd probably get fired or sacked or something like that. So.
But I think overall, to just discuss conspiracy theories in general, the reason why they've certainly risen, and as an expert said with the 5G, these have always been around. The 5G conspiracy theories have always been around, but because of the kind of rise in social media, it's just allowed them to be thrown out there and a lot more people to interpret them. And that's because we are a democracy. UK's a democracy, so that's why conspiracy theories have kind of got out there because of that.
I think the ability for anyone to put that opinion onto a kind of YouTube platform and for that opinion not to be questioned as you would question a lot of other things, I think has led to certain people having a massive presence online So people like David Icke bought into the whole 5G conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
and ended up getting banned from Facebook and banned from YouTube. And he'd come up with plenty of other weird conspiracy theories way before that, but it was those things that got him banned.
Yeah.
So you can then kind of see where like people that followed him might have thought, oh, well, they banned him because he's now onto something that's real and all that kind of stuff.
They don't help themselves, do they? Because by banning them, they're like, oh, well, maybe they told something that, you know, they shouldn't know. And then maybe half of the people have already seen that. So I do think that social media and, you know, the ability to just post whatever you want as long as you follow the application's guidelines is why all of this nonsense is out there, really.
Yeah, pretty much. If you have a following and, you know, you can literally say one thing, but if those people follow you and believe in what you say, then that's it. They'll believe it, tell other people, they'll believe them if they're good friends. It just spreads from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, perfect. That concludes our first episode of the Ramblers podcast. Thank you, Mark
Yeah,
and
thank you for
Charlie.
joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's
been a pleasure.
Yes, it has been. Lovely. Make sure to subscribe. Guys,
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
We don't want to become one of those YouTubers, but we have to.
Yes, just try and get us out there. And do please follow us on Instagram and Spotify. That'd be lovely.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.